Vannita Kay, and you've reached my Flosstube channel, Hazelene's daughter. This is my Flosstube number 3. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. If you are a returning viewer, bless you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you've just found my channel, welcome. Please, I hope you find something that you like here. I really appreciate it. I've received the warmest and most beautiful welcome to this community, and it has been a blessing to me. I started my Flosstube channel back in September, and I did it as a way to share, right? To share what I've been working on. Because you know we're in our homes or wherever, and we're stitching and we're sewing, and unless you have dedicated communities, I guess, that you belong to, you're probably doing it solo. And I know I'm most of the time doing it solo, but I have found community in Flosstube and QuiltyTube on YouTube, and I wanted to join that community, if you will. So that is why I am here. But another pretty significant reason as to why I'm here is because over the past few years, I have experienced some changes in my life, and I am seeking to, for lack of a better way to put it, reclaim myself, right? Find myself again, and being able to share what I love with you guys is helping me so tremendously with that. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. So what I thought we'd do today is I thought we would, of course, talk about the new quilt that's on the wall. Okay. I have a little bit of haul this time to share. I'll go over my stitching progress. I have a new start. I have some Christmas stitches. Okay. And I have a fully finished this time. And then one thing that I have been doing is I've been taking some of my quilt patterns that either come like in a book or a booklet form, and I take them to this local shop that does, you know, bookbinding, similar, I guess, to what you can get done at like a Staples or an Office Max or something like that. So I wanted to share that real quick. I have a few of them up here. And then also I have some haul. Did I say that? I have some haul. I think I said it. But anyway, I have a little bit of haul. And then I have some bags I want to show you guys. So I'll go ahead and jump in and get started. So the quilt on the wall. So my last video, what I had on the wall was my red and white sampler. It was a Lori Holt sew along from 2021 using her quilt books, and that quilt along is still on her blog. So if you saw my last video, or if you go back and check out my last video, you'll see my red and white sampler hanging on the wall, and that is Lori Holt. I think it's just called Red and White Sampler Sew Along. It was in April of 2021, and you can find that on her blog. Okay, so what I have hanging on the wall here is awesome. So I've mentioned so far in my previous videos that there is a local indoor flea market called the Minuteman Mall here where I live in Virginia, and there's a lady there, and she has a booth, 2 booths at least, where she sells vintage fabric, even current fabric now, cross stitch, anything sewing, stitching related, vintage and current she has. And I believe she's acquiring these items, you know, from quilters, cross stitchers who have unfortunately either passed away. She's going to estate sales and acquiring these things. People who are destashing, people who can no longer do the craft that they love, and so they destash their stuff with her. And she has been able to make this stuff available to people like you and me on the secondary market. And I take so much pleasure from that, so much joy. One day, a year or so ago, as I was shopping at one of her booths in the Minuteman Mall, she had these house quilt blocks that were already made by some wonderful quilter, and I think I just paid $10, and it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it was like 20 blocks. So I didn't use all of them in this quilt. So what I did was I decided to make my own neighborhood quilt, right? I love pink, so of course that's one of the things that drew me to those quilt blocks. So, and you know, one thing I noticed, and I wish I had one to show you, but what I noticed is that the quilter who made these house quilt blocks, she did not, it's not a rotary cut quilt. She used templates and cut them out. And I noticed that because the seam allowance, first of all, I could tell by the stitching, and her seam allowance was more than 1/4 of an inch. And I thought that was awesome. So, I mean, I can't say for sure how old these quilt blocks are, but I'm going to guess they're 80s or before, right? And I feel very privileged to be able to pick up this work and finish this quilt for the quilter who was unable to do so. And also inspired by Lori Holt. She has a pattern in one of her books called, I think it's called the Neighborhood Quilt. And I think each house is sitting on a strip of green to represent the lawn. So that's what I did here. And then I did like a real simple design of a tree and made trees to go in between each house. And so this is my version of a neighborhood quilt using these reclaimed quilt blocks and finishing this top. The border is also Lori Holt inspired from I forget which one of her books, but she does a scallop border quite a bit, right? And so I did that. So the lawn and the border, those are fabrics from the Minuteman Mall. My green trees, however, are from my 3.5 strip baskets. So it's just an assortment of different greens from maybe some from the Minuteman Mall, maybe some from Backorder Shop, maybe some from who knows where, right? They're just all greens. So that is the current quilt that I'm showing. Very excited. I can't wait to get that one quilted. So, and God bless the quilter who couldn't finish that quilt, and I'm happy to have that on display to honor them. So that's the quilt that's on the wall. What I've been stitching. Okay, unfortunately, not a whole lot. However, I do have those focus pieces that I did manage to touch, each one of those. So I'll go ahead and get into that, right? So, so one of my focus pieces was going to be, and is, The Quilted Witch by Lori Holt. Okay. So I managed to put in like 2 days on her, which is a far cry from the week that I was planning. But real quick, here is her floss, right? And there's some progress. And, you know, steps forward is steps forward. You know, it's not a whole lot of progress, but it's progress nonetheless. So I was working on this star over here, and I think, if memory serves me correctly, maybe I got in more of the blue star points, and I know the yellow is all new in the corners there, and anything on the inside of that is new, which is not quite finished yet. But I think once I get this corner up here finished, and then the spaces that are left are other colors that need to be filled in, you know, so progress. So I am happy. I'm happy that I was able to touch her, and happy. And again, it was 2 days, and it was literally like maybe an hour or half an hour on those 2 days. So not very much, but I was happy to be able to pick her up and get some stitches in her, because again, I do want her on my wall. And it was such a pleasure working on her, because of course I am stitching her on my 28 count Charles Craft DMC Monaco that I writ dyed, right? So that is my Quilted Witch. And she is still living in this bag that I made using the, I'm assuming, I don't know the name of the block, but I'm calling it the Pumpkin and Wagon block, which is from Lori Holt's Autumn Love applique quilt, right? So that's, again, that's a quilt that's on my list to do, acquiring a fabric for it. I wanted just to touch it, so I made that block and I turned it into a bag. And like I mentioned, that fabric for the background is a feed sack that I purchased at the Minuteman Mall. So I love that. So that is my Quilted Witch. My next focus was a piece that I'm working on for my youngest child. And let's see. That is from Owl Forest Embroidery. It's called Mushroom Houses. And what drew me to this is I was browsing Etsy, found this pattern, the mushrooms, because my daughter loves mushrooms, but also too the color of that fabric on their sample. Green is my favorite color in general, right? Is my favorite color. And I was really attracted to that fabric. So what I decided to do is, well, first I bought the pattern and downloaded it, right? And then I grabbed a piece of 28 count Charles Craft DMC Monaco. Comes in white, right? So I grabbed one of my rolls of that and I said, I'm going to dye me some green fabric. And that's what I did. And again, it's not identical to the picture. I feel like that picture, it's very vibrant, maybe more of an emerald type of a green. The Rit dye that I used for this is dark green. That's what I had. And I wasn't trying to do any modeling or anything like that. I just wanted a straight solid color. And I am very happy with how it turned out. So I am stitching mushroom houses on a piece of 28 count Charles Craft DMC Monaco that I Rit dyed dark green. Now, again, I think I got less stitching in on this one than I did on the Quilted Witch. But what I did do is there's a little, I guess, outhouse on that side of the house. This is another little house on the outside, or outbuilding maybe. So I got the roof of that little building on there. Yep. And then there's going to be a chimney over here. So I got, this was literally like one night before I went to sleep, that I got to work on that. And then here's the floss for that one. Now, Owl Forest Embroidery does have floss, and the called for is an Owl Forest embroidery floss, but they also have a DMC conversion. So that is what I ended up doing for this one, is their DMC. So that is Mushroom Houses. And still, this is still active whip for me, that I'm going to continue to have in my monthly rotation, and because I do want progress for this, for my daughter. I want to see this on her wall one day. So this month was just so busy. So busy, and I'll talk about more about that at the end. But anyway, Owl Forest Embroidery Mushroom Houses. Now, this one is living in this bag, which it's just mainly it's this back fabric of the green, right, that allows me to know at a glance what's probably in this bag. But this is fabric that I got from Hobby Lobby, this floral bee skip fabric, and then this green floral fabric. So that's where Mushroom Houses is living. Okay, and then my third and final focus is this is the one where I have the loftiest goal and or plans for, right? And so this one is the Lord's Prayer. Let's see. The Lord's Prayer by Layla Studio. Love this one. And so I mentioned in my last video that I'm actually going to stitch this one twice, and I'm stitching it twice because two reasons. A friend who's also a family member, a cousin of mine, when I first showed this in my first Flosstube, she reached out and she said, "Oh my God, I love that." Well, I said, "Oh my God." I don't know if she said, "Oh my God," but I love that. I'd love to buy that from you. And I said, assuming she meant she wanted to buy the finished piece from me, I'm like, "No, ma'am. No, I would be happy to stitch it for you." And then on my first stitch of this one, I made a mistake on the border, pretty catastrophic in the sense that I was going to have to start over, like fully frog and fully start over. So before I started frogging, I grabbed a new piece of fabric, started on the border in a different color green, and decided that I'm going to stitch this project twice because I want one, right? My cousin has expressed an interest in wanting one, so I'm going to stitch it twice. So I'm going to show you first the one that I'm frogging out. So this is a piece of Fiber on a Whim, Milk and Honey, which I really like, okay? And I started this project on this fabric, right? But then, the mistake, well, the ultimate understanding that there was a mistake was over on this side, right? So I've begun the frogging process, and so I guess you can say I have about half of that border frogged out. Let me say, this fabric is beautiful to stitch on, and I'm not even saying it's hard to frog, okay? But man, I guess it's intensive, right? intensive because the last thing you want to do is snip one of your linen threads. My God, that would be a nightmare, right? Worse than the mistake itself. So you take your time, right? And I'm using a seam ripper, and I'm doing it like 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, right? Type of thing. So that's my progress on frogging that out. And then of course I'm going to restart it, right? Once that's frogged out. And then here was my second start. And I am more than halfway in getting that border in the bones of the exterior border, right? So that is the progress I have made on that. So just to talk about the floss a little bit. So I had bought this pattern and kitted it up not too long after our local Joann's, all Joann's, right? But then also my local Joann's went out of business, and then their clearance sales started. And when their clearance sales started, I went over there maybe the second day into the sale, one day after work, and I walked through the front doors, and it hit me that let me see what I can do about some floss. Is it possible for me to kit up a full set of DMC, or as close to a full set of DMC as possible? So I walked through the doors, that thought hit me. I walked back to the floss section, and I felt like someone had been there before me, mainly because some of the colors were missing, like all the way gone, which happens, right? From time to time. Even when you go to Michael's or when you go to Hobby Lobby or wherever you can buy your DMC, there may be one or two that are out of stock, right? But there was like less than 10, but more than 5, right? That were out of stock. So that was number one. But then actually later, when I was paying, the gentleman who was ringing me up, he told me, "You're the second one." I forgot about that part before. He said, "You're the second one to come through here." And he remembered how many skeins the person before me bought, right? And so then it was a contest at that point to see how many skeins I had. And I came up short. So she got more than I did. She or whoever got more than I did, right? So that was fun. Really funny. But since I had just done that before I acquired this pattern, I decided I'm going to use my full set. It's about 90%, right? To go ahead and kit up this project, right? So if I look at this, so the pattern calls for a Versoix 100.3. Yep. And then it has a DMC conversion, right? So I'm using the DMC, okay? And so I went in, didn't have, even though I have I've acquired DMC, but that's how it works, right? I don't have every color that's listed there. So I went ahead and took the opportunity just to do some substituting. Yeah, I even have some anchor floss in here, right? So I have some anchor. I have whatever DMC that's called for that I have in here. And then for the other ones, I think I just used my DMC color board thing, and tried to find something very comparable to that. But one thing I will say that is different, and I mentioned it in my previous video, is that one of my shopping trips at the Minuteman Mall, I found this cardboard tube that had 5 or 6 skeins of 6-stranded floss. Not skeins. It had 5 or 6 cakes, right? If you think about yarn that's been rolled into a cake, right? So it had about 5 or 6 cakes of 6-stranded floss on it, right? And I think I paid about $5 for that, and I've now been able to use it. I have another project, Caroline Amelia Trowel, that I'm using that floss for, and I'm also now using it for the Lord's Prayer. And this is a mystery green, right? And when I started the new one on this Affogato, I don't think I mentioned, 32 count Affogato by Fiber on a Whim, I am using this mystery green color, and I'm calling it the mystery light green because there's another green, and I'm calling that the mystery dark green. Okay, so I'm using this for that one to start my border, and I think I'm going to use it to do not just the bones of the outside border, but also the leaves that are on the outside border. And I think I was also saying that I wanted to use it to do the inner circle border and the leaves on the inner circle border. But I reserve the right to change my mind on that. But that's what I think I'm going to do, because on the piece of Milk and Honey, I used this darker green, but it's not the mystery dark green. It is a piece of, or it is a anchor green, right? So it's anchor 0268 that I used to substitute the called for green. And I think it's a pretty color. And I do like the way it looks on this piece of Milk and Honey, but I think I've changed my mind, right? So as I frog this out, what I think I'm going to do, and I think I mentioned this in my last video, is I'm going to find me a green that may be somewhere in between this mystery light green and somewhere in between this anchor 0268. Is that what I said? Yeah, 0268. And to start over on this one. So I still haven't picked that out yet. But once I get that fully frogged, I'm going to make a decision and pick out a green for that. So, you know, hopefully, willing, next time I come back, I will have that affogato border fully in, and I will have the Milk and Honey border fully frogged out and hopefully started or restarted. So let's cross our fingers on that. Thank you. So again, lofty goals. I'm going to stitch this twice, and it's going to be an active part of my rotation until it's finished, right? So I'll be touching this in some way, shape, form, or fashion every month until it's finished. I'm really excited about it. I think it's a beautiful piece. Lori Holt a few months ago had a tutorial, a framing tutorial on her channel, and it was her finish of the Lord's Prayer that she used to do that framing tutorial. And I do remember when she started that project, I think it was one of her Sunday stitches, right? And it was so pretty. It was so pretty. So I'm very excited about it. If you're stitching this, and a lot of you are stitching this, I feel like there were quite a few comments of people who were stitching it. People were giving me some insight and suggestions on that border. And there was another person, I forget specifically what she said, but I think I laughed out loud when I read it because she also commented on the border. And, you know, anyway, it was just too cool, too awesome. And again, this is, you know, why I'm here, because to be able to reach out and meet people and know that we're working on the same thing. Maybe we're coming across the same issues. Maybe we're laughing, you know, so it's just been such a pleasure to read the comments. I really do appreciate you guys sharing your stories with me. That part has brought me so much joy. It's been such a blessing. So thank you so much for that. So those were my 3 focus pieces. In with all of that, I also have a new start. So I'll show you that one. So, oh, wait a minute. So did I talk about the bag that she lives in? I did not. 1 second. Okay. So again, she's not in a bag. She's in a folio, right? So this is my Sunbonnet Sue. This is a Sunbonnet Sue pattern from Eleanor Burns, Quilt in a Day. It was a Sunbonnet Sue booklet. I bought it at Joann's, 2008, 9 or 10, one of those. And I love this pattern. So this I made using all Lori Holt fabric. And I think I was following Elizabeth Ann Can Stitches tutorial for the most part. And I made some mistakes in there. I think I made it too big. Whole lot of things, right? But I love, first I love it. It feels good. It's got that foam in there. And I love Sunbonnet Sue. And I love Lori Holt fabric. And I think those two go together just the absolute best. So that is what my Lord's Prayer is living in. Sunbonnet Sue folio. Okay. So those are my 3 focuses. And then I had a new start. And I did share this new start. I did share it on my Instagram, okay, a couple days ago. So you might have seen that. Okay. So what I have is a cross stitch project that I got it thrifting, okay. I'm not 100% sure that I got it from the Minuteman Mall. As a matter of fact, I don't think I did, but I do think I know that I got it thrifting from a thrift store in my local town, right? And it is an American Heritage collection from, and guys, forgive me, I can't see to read small print, from Homespun Elegance. And it's their American Heritage collection. And this one is called, I think it's called just Virginian, A Virginian. the Virginian, one of them. But to be a Virginian is how it starts, right? So this is what I have. And I'm a Virginian, right? Born and raised, very proud to be one. So I'm stitching this. And this one calls for 3 colors, I think. There's a red, and then there's some type of a blue, and I think there's a 3rd color in there. But I've decided that I'm going to stitch this as a 1-color stitch, and I'm going to stitch it in blue. Okay. And there's also a piece of fabric that I acquired thrifting. I think this one, it did come from the Minuteman Mall. It came in a cross stitch that was kitted, right? And I pulled the fabric from that because I'm going to stitch whatever that project was on something else. And I pulled this fabric out and just had it in my stash. And then when I decided, trying to kit this project up a few weeks ago, I pulled this piece of fabric to put in there. And that's what I'm using. And I will put the name of the fabric here because I do know it. I mean, I have it, but I don't remember off the top of my head what it's called. But I do know that it's a linen, and it's a 28 count linen. And I think the name is Blush, maybe. But I will put that here because I honestly do not remember. For the floss, it's a mystery because I have floss that I did some slight over dyeing on to see. Now, again, I was playing around, right? And I'm not even 100% sure if this is DMC or Anchor. I think it's DMC. And it was a blue color floss, and I used blue Rit dye, like a darker color, to do some type of over dyeing to see what kind of variegation I could get. And again, this was just sitting off to the side in my stash because it was, again, something, it was an experiment, something I was experimenting with. But I pulled it out and thought it'd be perfect to use for this project. So here is what I have so far on To Be a Virginian. That's what I'm going to call it. Right? So I started a little bit of that side border, and that was me just like how's this going to look, right? And I really do like the color. I don't know that it's going to actually show any significant amount of variegation as I go along, but I'm enjoying the color. So this was a day and a half of playing around with it, and I'm happy with it, and I'm going to move forward. So To Be a Virginian, right? And then here, and I don't even really have this properly on a tag or anything. I just kind of stuck it on the ring, right? But here's that floss. Let me put it up here like that. Oh, no. No. Let's see. There we go. I think it's really pretty. And again, my bad, because I don't write anything down. I'm at this time when I was doing this, because this was probably months ago. You know, I wasn't writing anything down, but I haven't dyed anything since I've started making these Flosstube videos. But I have some haul, and I've bought some more fabric that I can use to experiment with dyeing. So I'll talk about that. And this is the bag I have her living in. This is a bag using all fabric from mostly all fabric from the Minuteman Mall. So I made a vinyl front project bag, and inside here is a cheater print of like these hexagons. I made a floss bed to go with it. And then the back is just my patchwork, right? And all of this, with the exception of this middle brown with the rose ditzy, with the exception of that fabric, which came from Joann's, the surrounding fabric all came from the Minuteman Mall, to include the fabric on the border, and to include the cheetah print. And that zipper came from Joann's. So yeah, so this is the bag that To Be a Virginian is living in. Okay, so that was my one new start, which that's pretty good, right? That's pretty good, because sometimes, you know, not frogs, but like squirreling, right? You're squirreling. And I love the beginning, right? I love the kitting up. I love the putting my floss on floss drops. I love making my working copy and putting that all together, picking a bag. Like, it's my favorite part. I'm surprised I don't have more projects started. But yeah, that's my favorite part. So I'm very proud. I only just started that one new one this month. So that's awesome. Okay, so that's my current stitching. I also have a few Christmas whips that may or may not get any attention, you know, over the next few weeks, but I did want to go ahead and quickly show. Subscribed to Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher for a year. And I didn't renew it, but I think I will subscribe again. And if this was the digital subscription, and I don't think I knew what I was doing when I was like ordering that subscription, because it was my intention to like get a magazine, right? Like to get a literal magazine. But I ended up subscribing to the digital version, which was fine, right? So one of the pieces that I found, and I think I'd seen this on Flosstube before, and it's called Dancer, and it's by Barbara Anna of Barbara Anna Designs. She's awesome, right? So Barbara Anna Designs, so nice. It's called Dancer. Very pretty. Very pretty. I just love looking at it. And of course, my printed copy of the cover is not doing it any justice. But look how majestic that deer looks. Just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So I'm stitching him, right? I'm stitching Dancer. And let's see. Okay, here's another one where I started it on a fabric and then restarted it on another fabric. So I had dyed a piece of fabric that I was hoping to use for my 2020 pandemic sampler, which was a free pattern from Sarcy Gurl, right? And she had dyed her own fabric to go along with her stitch, and she also over dyed some of her floss to go with that stitch. And she is the one who gave me the idea about over dyeing floss. Awesome, right? So when I called myself trying to dye a piece of dark fabric, or to dye a piece of fabric dark, to use to stitch my 2020 pandemic sampler, I've mentioned that I do purchase fabric from Amazon, and I showed that in my last video, and I'll try to put the name of the brand in here. But I used some of the fabric that I bought from that retailer on Amazon, and I think it's the 32 count. And I know that because their 32 count is thinner and their 28 count is more substantial, almost like the Charles Craft DMC. Not quite the same, but more like that feel. But their 32 count is not as substantial as that. And so this piece just ended up dark. I was trying to do, you know, light and dark, right? Light and dark throughout the piece. But it just got really muddy. Right? But I mean, it's still a decent piece of fabric to use, right? In my opinion. So of course I kept it. And I thought, oh, maybe I could start Dancer on that. And I did attempt to start, and I started with the antlers there. Oh, but I could not see. I couldn't see. No amount of light that day was going to help me see to stitch on this fabric. And I don't even want to tell you how long it probably took me to get that in there. You know what I mean? And I'm hopeful. I mean, because I think it would be beautiful on this fabric. If, you know, judging by the picture, you know, from the pattern, I think it would be very lovely. And like, this is like a dark blue, gray, like an evening sky, right? That's so pretty. Oh, does it tell me on here what it is? Let's see. She stitched this on... Okay, so it's stitched on a piece of 32 count. So it's stitched on a piece of 32 count Murano Splash Granite Linen by Zweigart. So if anyone's, is that available? I have no idea. This pattern is from 2020. Well, it's from the 2021 Christmas Winter issue of Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher. But it's really pretty. And so that was my, so this I had in my stash, right? So I went ahead and grabbed that and tried to use it. Discovered that I wasn't going to be successful, at least for it to be enjoyable, right? So I pulled another piece of fabric out of my stash, and what I got was, let's see, this is a piece of Jobelin Evenweave 28 count coffee. So piece of it's an 1/8 yard cut of 28 count. Guys, it's dark in here. Okay, so in Virginia, right, it's very gloomy today. It was 32 degrees when I woke up this morning. There was maybe like a thin skim of ice out there because it's like drizzling, and it's been drizzling on and off all day. The sun said, I'm not coming out today. I'm going to hide behind all these clouds. So the sun has not been out. Of course, she's up, but she's not out. And it's so gloomy. And so I apologize. It's darker here. It's dark in here. My lighting. It's only going to do so much for me right now. So I do apologize for that, because usually I have a window over here and I film during the day for that window. And it does give me decent light, at least where I think my video will be a little bit more brighter than it is right now. But there's really no light coming in out there. It might as well be nighttime. But it's cold and wintry and a little bit gloomy outside. And I think maybe this is a little bit gloomy. So I apologize if the lighting isn't it, right? But hopefully you can see everything okay. But I'm stitching her, and I was trying to read. That was my point. I'm trying to read what it says, and I can't read it. From 1, 2, 3 Stitch, it is an 1/8 yard cut of 28 count coffee. Coffee Jobelan Evenweave, okay? So there's no modeling or anything like that on it. Right. And I restarted Dancer on this. How pretty is his little eyes? Oh my goodness. So pretty. So I'm happy with this, right? So I think I'd stitched on this for a couple of nights. Let's say 4 or 5 nights when I first started it months ago. And I haven't picked him up since then. But I think he's beautiful, and I'm going to continue with him on this piece of coffee Jobelan Evenweave Dancer by Barbara Anna Designs. So pretty. And I am using the Call for Floss DMC for him. It's a little messy. Sorry. So yeah, I'm excited about him. So he is, and I don't even have very many Christmas whips, but so I'm very proud to say that he is one of my Christmas whips. And he is living in a bag, vinyl front bag that I made using fabric from Hobby Lobby. Yeah, I think all this fabric is from Hobby Lobby. And I did like this swooping half circle quilting design on the fabric. So that's what he's living in. Also with a thread bed. So that's Dancer. The second Christmas whip that I have is a pattern that I found on Etsy. And I bought 3 patterns from this designer. And I made a bag. And I'll just go ahead and show the bag first. I made a bag that's Christmas inspired, right? That these 3 patterns that I bought from this designer on Etsy, you can see it's heavy, are living in. So I did myself another red and white patchwork panel. And then I had this blue X fabric that I bought from Joann's, and I made this back. I think she's pretty. She's pretty. And I decorated it with my covered button and crochet flower. So the actual one out of the 3 patterns that I purchased, the one that I started, and they were very low cost. I want to say they were like no more than $3. And the designer is Wombat Stitching. Wombat Stitching. And this pattern is called Christmas Town. Isn't that pretty? I think it's very pretty. So that's what I started. And I had this piece of fabric that I bought from 1, 2, 3 Stitch probably a minute ago, right? And I think I must have bought it on sale. It's not a color that I would typically gravitate to. I think it's called Dove, to be honest, but I cannot find the sticker that came on the fabric. So if I manage to go back and look through my order history at 1, 2, 3 Stitch, I will try to find the color, but I think it's Dove. And if I had to guess, I'm going to say it's a 28 count, okay? So I don't have much started on her, but I started in the middle. So that is what I have gotten done so far. And I did that one night. That was one evening before going to sleep that I stitched that. And it's that blue house there in the middle. See, and this was very easy, enjoyable stitch. So I will pick her up again soon, hopefully sometime. Here's the floss for that one. DMC. See. Now I mentioned I also purchased 2 other patterns from her, from Wombat Stitching, and I will quickly show those patterns. So this one is called Merry Christmas. Apologize for the glare. Merry Christmas by Wombat Stitching, and I do have messily the floss for that one. And then this one's called Santa Over the City. Oops. Santa Over the City. So there's that one. I do like houses. I do like houses. So, and then I have extra floss in here, those 3 patterns. I haven't picked out fabric for the second 2. I think I'm pretty committed to using that piece of blue. I think it's called Dove fabric for Christmas Town. So I'm gonna move forward on that. But I do, it's one of the larger bags that I've made. I had some other bags previously that I showed that were probably around the same size. But yeah, I really like how that red and white is working with that blue. And to try to keep the floss a little bit neat, I have this extra little bag that the floss is living in inside of that bag. And this is fabric that came from the Minuteman Mall. And I love it. I hope it's coming across. Eh. So that is my second Christmas whip. Now, my last Christmas whip is a stocking. It's a stocking, and it is from Shepherd's Bush. Sorry, my pattern got all crinkled in the bag. And I thought I learned my lesson with Winter Rose Manor as it comes to like preserving your pattern. My goodness. When I opened up my bag today, and I've been working on this recently. This is another one that kind of usurped some of my time, right? But I had been working on this one recently. And I think the reason is because it's easy mobile stitching, or at least I had it to a point where it was easy mobile stitching. I was getting my car worked on, so I took that with me to stitch on when I was in the waiting area at the dealership, right? So, and I left it in my car, so it's been in my car like for a couple of weeks, if that makes any sense. So, but this is Shepherd's Bush, and they have a lot of stockings, right? So go to their website and check that out, or even on 123 Stitch, wherever you buy your patterns, you can probably buy these, right? And I chose the one that they named Lois, or that's the name they have on theirs. I think that's Lois. And I love the colors in that one. The cranberry, love it. Now, does this stocking belong to anyone? No, not yet. So I'm thinking once Lois is done, and then of course I'll decide who it belongs to, and that's the name I will put on my stocking. But no, they haven't, the stitch hasn't made it apparent to me yet who they're being stitched for. But I'm stitching this one on a piece of 20 count raw linen Ada fabric that I purchased at 123 Stitch, and it's being stitched with pearl cotton floss is what's called for. Is what's called for the Shepherd Bush stockings. And it's being stitched 2 over 2. So 2 floss threads, or 2 pearl cotton floss threads over 2 fabric threads. And that is my lowest stocking where I've gotten so far. So I was very pleased when I got, I'm calling that Santa Claus. And I assume that's what that is. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then I'm working on the snowman right now. So yeah, very lovely. They give you an alphabet so that you can customize the name. Excuse me. But I'm not going to show it. It's on the back and it's like charted. But they give you an alphabet so that you can personalize the name. And I just want to show you what the bottom of that stocking looks like. What I have. So it's like a little town down there. Yeah, and some sheep. So yeah, but when I was perusing for stockings, this one stuck out to me. Thought it was very pretty. They're all lovely. And so I do want to, once this is done, acquire another one, because I really enjoy working on this. And also too, when I was at Joann's to purchase the floss that time, as they were going out of business, I went ahead and got one of each of the pearl cotton flosses as well. In addition to what I already have, you know, kitted up here with this one, I got one. So I figure even if I don't have the exact color that's called for, I'm going to have something, right, that's going to work for it. So thinking about these stockings and other shepherd's bush projects, I know that call for pearl cotton, I think I should be good, right? I think I should be good to go. So, I don't think I showed it, but here we go. Yeah, and so the casualty, this tag, I think I was being too rough one day and managed to rip that right off, and I left it on there. So, but here's the pearl cotton floss that I'm using. It's the number 5 pearl cotton. So I did write that on my tags that it's DMC PC5 for pearl cotton 5, and that's the color 310, of course, which is black. And this color that was for the Santa's coat is 815 DMC 815. And I have 2 more skeins of this living in the bag. But yeah, very pretty. And these are actually fun to work with, actually. So that is Lois Shepherd's Bush stocking. So she should be a finished stocking by next Christmas, right? So yeah, that's fun, right? But Lois is living in a bag, a patchwork bag that I made a while back. And it's Christmassy, cranberry-y colors, right? That kind of go along with the Santa's coat on that pattern. And it just has this pink on the back with crosshatch quilting on it. And yeah, cranberry. I love the color cranberry, actually. I really do. And I have just my cherry fabric on the inside. And she's decorated with my cover button. So this bag is done in a similar style as to a bag I previously showed. It's the bag that I have my, I think it's, yeah, a Fine House Indeed pattern is living in. Different color scheme, but the same design, where I made this patchwork panel, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 7 by 6. And then on that second row, I literally sliced it down the middle and then made the bag, put the zipper there. So yeah, so that is the bag that my stocking, Lois, is living in. So those are the only Christmas stitching that I have. I do have other patterns, projects that I'm kitting up for future. What is it called? I have, let me go get it. Okay, so I find, you know, as I'm going through these projects with you guys, I have all these thoughts and then these things I want to talk about that I wasn't planning on talking about. And then, of course, my recall leaves me. So I apologize. But it's Blackbird Designs, Home for the Holidays. And I purchased this booklet specifically for a sampler that was, I think, originally sold as an individual pattern, but then they re-released it in this booklet, and it's Christmas Garden. The one person that I specifically remember stitching this, that I was like, I need to have that, was Elizabeth Ann Can Stitch. So that was a couple years ago, probably, and this is something she's had finished, I think, for a minute. But Christmas Garden, a lot of people have stitched this, I'm pretty sure, and it's so lovely. Now, this is one of those where I had gotten a gift card, so I went ahead and kitted this one up with the called for floss, with the called for overdyed floss. Yeah, which here that is. Here is the called for. So I was very happy to be able to do that. So this is a future start. I don't have a date yet. I'm still locking down the fabric that I want to use. I have like maybe 2 or 3 pieces set aside for it, but I haven't made a full decision. But then also there are these Christmas stockings, and I believe I watched or saw Nerissa from Nerissas Stitching Lifestyle, who is a prolific stitcher. My goodness. I just watched her newest video yesterday. I enjoy her so much. Hi, Nerissa, if you happen to stumble across my channel. So she was stitching those stockings. Maybe it might have been last Christmas, actually. So I'm not 100% sure. But there's several patterns in here. Another one is called Blessings Be Thine. Blessings Be Thine. My dog wants to come in. And let's see. This one. This cardinal, right? So the back, Virginia. Cardinal is the state bird of Virginia, right? Lovely bird. I don't know if they're the most clever birds because they will fly low in front of your car like it's nobody's business. Oh my gosh, the poor things, right? So, but this cardinal pattern in here is beautiful. It's the cranberry, right? It's that red. Love it. Let's see here. And this is a very substantial pattern. I love that word, substantial. You know, and I guess I may overuse it and I may not always use it correctly. But like of substance, right? Oh, just love it. Absolutely love it. Where are you at, my friend? You're in the back, of course. Cardinals in the back. So, yeah, very lovely. And I've seen this stitch too on Flosstube. Very pretty. Let's see. So I bought, and so a nice investment, I think, this book. Christmas Garden is the reason why I bought it. And then there's all these other lovely patterns, right, for Christmas to choose from. So this one will give me lots of Christmas stitching, which is awesome. So that is, yeah, and so, like I said, I do have, so there's my floss. And I have a piece of fabric in here, which I think came from another kitted piece, right, that I bought at the Minuteman Mall. So we'll see if I decide to move forward with that. All right, so that's all my current stitching. Christmas stitching, you know, no plans really for Christmas stitching, but those are the projects I have going. So that ends. So again, not much stitching, but I did get to touch some of it, which was a blessing. Let's see. Fully finished. So I talked about, so I have a fully finished, right? And I've showed it twice already. But this is my autumn stitch, and I did post the finish on Instagram. But I had bought this frame from Hobby Lobby at the same time that I had purchased a frame for my Winter Rose Manor. I showed that fully finished in my last video. And so I got Autumn by the Cricut Collection. I got her laced, right? And in her frame. And I'm displaying her currently in my living room for autumn. So that's a blessing. So that is my fully finished. And I'll show you in my haul, I did go and purchase some more Cricut Collection patterns of a similar style, right? So there is a local like postal store, and they also do like binding, printing, copying, you know, that kind of thing. And when I purchased like this book here, which is Lori Holt's Be Happy Quilt. So Riley Blake Designs, I'm assuming. So this was one of Lori Holt's applique quilts. And you know, like when she puts out a new applique quilt with her So Simple Shapes, she also, it comes along with a free sew along guide. And that is your guide to using the shapes and making the quilt, along with her blog, right? And so, but I guess, right, they put this book together and it's like a pattern right now where you can, yeah, it's a pattern. And I do have these shapes. And then when this became available, I bought it from the Fat Quarter Shop. I bought that. And then this, along with several other like Lori Holt skinny booklets, I took it to my local print shop so that they could bind it for me. And I could have it lay flat or all the way open. Very inexpensive and worth it for, you know, to me. I also did that to my Great Granny Squared book, which comes as like a binded book, right? And then Lori Holt's Sew by Row, and also another thin booklet. And then I did the same thing with my quilted snowman, quilted scarecrow, and quilted witch. I had them all binded as well. So I just wanted to share that. If that was anything you guys had ever thought about, I'm sure plenty of people have done this, right? Usually you would go maybe to like an Office Max, Office Depot, Staples, that type of place to do it. But I have this local place. The folks there are awesome. Turnaround time is super fast, you know. So I like to go to their store whenever possible to get some things done. Okay, so that was my book binding. Okay, so I got some haul, right? I went to Hobby Lobby, and it was actually maybe the start of their Christmas sale, so their parking lot was full. But it was that day I went to get my car worked on, and I was in that particular town where the Hobby Lobby is, because I don't have one in my hometown. So I wanted to take advantage of the fact that I was up there that day. So I just went in there just walking around. Unfortunately, it was a week where the fabric section was not on sale, right? Well, maybe that was a blessing in disguise, right? So the fabric was not on sale, but I did go around and find some other things. So I like to have little pairs of scissors so I can have, if I kit up a new cross stitch project, I can have its own pair of scissors, of course, in that bag. And I had never purchased scissors from Hobby Lobby, but in their paper crafting section, they had these scissors, and I bought 6 pair. Yep, I bought 6 pair, and they were relatively inexpensive. I had the receipt a second ago. They were like less than $1.50 each. And that was probably a sales price. But even with that, they were still full price, relatively inexpensive. So I got 6 pair of those, which and I haven't used them yet. But I've also purchased similar scissors, very similar looking scissors from the Dollar Tree that are pink. So from the Dollar Tree, excuse me, you can get like their pink little handled scissors in their crafting section for like $1.25. And then Michael's used to have, and they may still have, but those are probably a bit more expensive. But to me, they're so very similar. They're like a white and black handled small scissor, relatively inexpensive. So I have several pairs of those as well. I feel like the price of those have gone up though, because I haven't bought any of those recently. So I like to have a pair of scissors in each bag, because the last thing you want to do is just go hunting around for a pair of scissors when you're trying to clip your floss and start your new color, right? I also bought this ribbon. Love ribbon. It's my favorite ribbon, and I can tell you why in a minute. But I bought this, my favorite style of ribbon. And by that I mean, I like this ribbon because it's the red with the white stitching on it, and I can tell you why in a minute. So I got a couple of those, because I am going to experiment with some more fabric dyeing. I picked up some 25 count Lugano, and Hobby Lobby sells the Artiste brand. So I got a piece of natural. I got what they had that day, right? So this is 2 pieces of natural. 25 count Lugana. And these are 52% cotton, 48% modal, M-O-D-A-L. If you can see that. So I'm going to do some experimenting on that. I went to my local Michael's near where I work and purchased, I think they had 1 tube of the Charles Craft 28 count DMC. It comes in a tube, and it's a 20 by 24 inch cut, and it was like $8. So that price has gone up, you know, like 8 something. So 9 something probably after taxes. When I first started buying the Charles Craft 28 count Monaco, it was like $6. It was like $6. And in my last video, or one of my last videos, when I was talking about it, I even said it's probably gone up, and it has. So it was let's say it was $8.99 maybe on the wall, you know. So it was going to be over $9, you know, once taxes and stuff. I still find it to be a good price for what it is, but it did go up, which I had thought it might, and yeah, it totally did. And if they had had more, I would have bought more, but they only had 1 that day. So I have that, plus the tube I showed you last time. So I have 2 of those. And I might have picked up a few more 22 or 28 counts from Michael's, of their Michael's brand. So I'm going to do some experimenting, hopefully over the next few weeks, maybe over the Christmas break or something, and see what else I can create. And I'll share that if I'm able to get to it in my next video. But oh, also too, to round out my haul, when I was walking around Hobby Lobby that day, I picked up these 2 charms. So I got this mushroom charm. So of course I was thinking about my daughter. And then this cute little frog. And I think I just got him because he's green. So he's cute. So I got these charms. I have that paper cutter that I use to cut up the cardstock when I make my tags, and I saw these blade replacements. So I picked that. It was on sale, so I picked it up. And then I got 2 new hole punches. So this one is a 0.625 inch. Is that 3/4 of an inch? I think it is. I'll do the math. But I got that one because my current hole punch is 1 inch. And I'm like, that is a scotch too big, right? So I'm going to try and see how I like, the next time I set out to make some tags, I'm going to see how I like this size. And then I got this one, which would mimic the little, which would be for the hole that's at the top of the tag that your ring goes through. So I picked that up, $2.49. And I don't know if it was on sale or not. I don't remember. It doesn't have a sale sticker on it. I think usually their stuff has a sale sticker. I'm not 100% sure. But I got that. And I think that really might be it. Oh. So that was it as far as like notions and things like that go. But I did get some patterns off 1-2-3 Stitch, right? So first I'm going to show that I did go ahead and buy the Americana flag pattern. And I bought it off of 1-2-3 Stitch because it was a couple of cents cheaper than on the Fat Quarter Shop. So I picked that up. And I'm probably not going to use Lori Holt fabric for that. I'm going to use my own reds because I still have a collection of reds from when I made my red and white sampler. And I have more blue than I realized. More blue than I realized. So I'm going to kit this up from stash. If anything, I might buy some. If I have to buy any fabric, I may have to buy some low volumes because it's all scrappy, like same color scrappy, right? If you can see that. So I may need to get some more low volumes to do the low volume blocks, you know, in there. And to get a lot of variety, if you will. But I think for the red and for the blue, I have a good amount of variety already. So I should be good to go with that one. And maybe I'll start this one next summer. So we'll see about that. And then, as I was talking about the Cricut collection, my daughter had said how much she liked my autumn. And I think I mentioned to her, oh, they also have the months. And then she's like, well, where's my month? So this is my oldest daughter, and she's a November baby. So I picked up November from the Cricut collection, which I really like that. So that's November. And then I also have an April baby, and I'm also an April baby. So for me and my April baby, I bought April. And then I have a March baby. I say baby. They are not babies. Have not been babies for a long time, right? But I also have a March baby. And I have a February friend. I thought that was really pretty. So I picked that up. See? So I think I'm going to start with that November though, because she's the one that asked for it. And she's the reason why I went on and bought these things. So whenever I kit that up to start, I will let you know. But that's my haul. I mean, not too much, right? Okay. So again, most of the shopping that I do is I'll go over to the Minuteman Mall. And when I decide to start shopping online, it's usually like in these bursts, right? Like it'll be one, a weekend, and maybe I've bought a couple things, and it'll be months, and then I'll do it again, right? So I'm not buying online or even in the store on a weekly or even a monthly basis. But when I do shop, I do it like in these little small bursts, right? So that's my burst. So why I haven't done much stitching. So I mentioned earlier in my video that this has been a busy month for me. And one of the main reason why it's been a very busy month is because I opened up my Etsy shop and I've listed some project bags for sale. I've made a couple sales, and I'm so grateful, so excited. I want to cry almost, because this has been a thing. So I mentioned earlier in the video that the major changes for me and for my family, you know, have happened over the past few years. Things are starting to settle down for me right now. That's one of the reasons why I jumped in and started my YouTube channel for Flosstube. I wanted to reach out to this community who has been there for me in ways I didn't even really understand. You know what I mean? In my effort to reclaim my life and to put myself back out there, and to live my life, right? In my effort to be me and to do what makes me happy, find things that make me happy, enjoy myself, enjoy my days, you know, I decided to move forward and do this, right? It's something I had been, you know, people say, oh my God, you should do this, you should do this, you know, and I'm like, you know, I'm in here sewing and I'm making, and I love making. I love making so much. I love it so much. So I went ahead, I just jumped right on in, 2 feet, just jumped right on in. And then I opened up my shop. I listed some bags. I made some sales. I got my first review. I've gotten some people following. I mean, it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing, and it's been so nerve-wracking, right? But almost so much fun. I would not, 5 years ago, if whatever happened 5 years ago had not happened, I would not be doing this, right? That doesn't mean I'm happy about anything that's happened. But I'm happy that I'm the type of person who will let fear stop them. And I have been pushing through that tendency so fast and so hard. And just that alone, right, has been a blessing for me. So I opened up an Etsy shop. I am selling project bags. If you are in the market for a project bag, just check out my shop. It's called Hazelene's Daughter, LLC. I've been on Etsy for a month. I've had 7 sales. The first bags that I posted were my fall harvest project bags. Let me grab one. 1 second. All right. So now, one of my things is, you know, I acquire this fabric mainly like from the Minuteman Mall, let's say. And then, of course, from Joann's and from Hobby Lobby. And then, of course, there is fabric that I buy, you know, not from 1 2 3 Stitch, but like from Fat Quarter Shop or from Missouri Star, right? So I'll buy Quilt Shop fabric. But most of my fabric shopping is my thrifting fabric and then my Joann's, right? Who's gone? But Joann's, and then like even Hobby Lobby. I have not bought fabric from Michael's. I did look, and no, I haven't bought fabric from Michael's yet. I did see something that I liked, but I didn't go there quite yet with Michael's. I'm still mourning Joann's. If you are as well, let me know. But anyway, so this is a combination of fabric from the Minuteman Mall, the lady who I buy fabric from at the Minuteman Mall. Like, for example, that's one. That's one. That's one. That's one, you know, and then I got this one from Joann's. Okay. This one's from the Minuteman Mall. Let's see. Most of this on this panel is from the Minuteman Mall, with the exception of this black and like tan color floral. Yeah. And then this fabric, this Harvest, I'm calling it Harvest, but it says Grateful right there. Let's see. Grateful, Give Thanks, Pumpkins. This came from Hobby Lobby, right? So I put these panels together and then found that fabric at Hobby Lobby and decided to make some bags out of it. And I have some of these for sale. So I think I have 2 left in my Etsy shop. I posted 6. I sold 4. I have 2 left. I had the price had been reduced, and then I had a Black Friday sale going on, but that ends today. So I'm filming this on the last day of November 30th, but it may be a few days before I get this video actually uploaded. But if you're interested, go ahead and check out my shop, Hazelene's Daughter. There's a few of these available. And then the second bag I posted was my Lori Holt Granny Chic bags. So I love Lori Holt, and Granny Chic is one of my favorite lines of hers. And I had made several bags. So I had like a, what do you call it? The 2.5-inch strips. A jelly roll. So I had a jelly roll of Granny Chic fabric, and then I had a fat quarter bundle, and I had purchased these ago, right? And then I ended up just cutting up my jelly roll into 2.5-inch squares, made some panels, right? And then picked a fat quarter to use for the top and for the back. And then I have my label sewn in on the back. And I like making my bags with a wristlet. So that's just what I do. I love to do the wristlets and the red ribbon. So I mentioned that, you know, I picked up some of this red ribbon from Hobby Lobby. This came from a use of ribbon that I was able to reuse. So we were gifted these cakes. And the cakes came, these mini cakes, and they came wrapped in cellophane with the red ribbon wrapped around them. And I was able to repurpose these ribbons in some of the earlier things that I've made. I've made gifts for people, and I really loved that red ribbon with the white stitching on it. And then this is not exactly the same, but it's close enough, right? It's close enough, and you can buy this at, I think you can get it at Michael's, but every time I've gone there recently, I look for it and I can't find it. But this came from Hobby Lobby. Is that the only place I'm buying it? Maybe. I think I did buy it once or twice from Michael's, but from my local Michael's, when I go there here now, they have every other red, but they don't have this one. So when I was in Hobby Lobby recently, I picked some up. Right, so I can have. And that is what I like to add to my zipper pulls. See? So, but yeah, so anyway, I have a few Lori Holt bags available. This one I just posted, I want to say 2 days ago, right, for sale. And I have 3 more from my original listing. So I have this one, which I think is called Blue Flowers on my listing. And then this one I think is called, it's called Ditzy Tan maybe on my listing. And then this one is called Pink Embroidery. And I did something different with this one, playing around. So I did, you know, the pink embroidery, which is a Lori Holt wide back fabric from her Granny Chic line. And I did a strip of it in lieu of the patchwork on this level to go there. And then... yeah, that's all of them. So I have 4 of those available. Each one of these, including the Fall Harvest bag, are going to come with a thread bed. Okay. And a complimentary crochet flower and cover button. And that is because I have a lot of these. When I first started making these after her tutorial, I have a lot. I have a jar full, and I want to share, right? And then I made the cover button, and I decorate all my bags that way, right? So I wanted to, as an add-on, as an addition, just to share that with whoever bought a bag. So those are for sale. Now, the only thing that won't be Lori Holt fabric on these bags are going to be the lining. And so the linings are going to vary, but this is a piece of vintage fabric that I bought from the Minuteman Mall. So that's inside this particular bag. So the inside lining is going to coordinate with the bag in some way, or be relevant in some way. So this is some vintage foundation fabric in there, and this is the embroidery bag. And in my blue flower bag, same, the vintage foundation fabric. And then what does this one have? And this is that same vintage floral from the Minuteman Mall inside this bag. And each bag has a hook where you can hang your floss ring if you choose to. So those are available. And then also too, I have a vinyl front. Now I had showed my strawberry bag in my first video, maybe, my strawberry bag, and this is fabric that I got at the Minuteman Mall. It was a border print that I decided to separate the borders, cut out squares, I also got this print at the same time, made these patchwork panels, and then this wonderful strawberry jam. Strawberry jam fabric. It's a heavyweight canvas from Joann's. And then each one comes with a needle book. And of course it has its own, I think that's more of a strawberry ribbon, strawberry colored. It kind of goes with the background and the prints and everything. These bags will all have a different border print at the top. The thread bed may or may not match the top, but there are 5 of these, I think, listed in my Etsy shop. So I just wanted to go ahead and share that information. It's for those who want to, right? I'm not asking anyone to buy anything. I'm just sharing what I have been doing. I'm sharing this part of my life, right? I guess with everyone. So that's probably all that I have for today. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I'll have all my links and other socials in the description box. I will also do my best to link anyone that I've mentioned or any shop that I've shopped at. If there's a link to share, I'll do my best to link that in the bottom. Bless you if you've made it to the end. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you coming back, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much. Bye.